It's Monday, February 16th, 2026. It's the 47th day of the year, and we've got some big-time storms on the way from California to the Ohio Valley to the East Coast. We are tracking several threats that could turn dangerous very quickly. This is not your typical February weather, and that's exactly what makes it so concerning. We're going to start off talking about the Ohio Valley here because we've got a rare day for severe weather risk out here for portions of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. How about you? Clarksville, Lexington, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Poplar Bluff, all the way up there to Louisville and Evansville. We are talking about the return of severe weather between Thursday and Friday. We've got false spring warmth that we've been enjoying. There's a price to pay with that, and that's going to be some Gulf moisture making it up into here and potentially some strong storms. And actually, it's a pretty big deal if the Storm Prediction Center does a day 4 outlook, so we're not waiting around. This looks like something that we're going to start ringing the alarm bells for right now. There's going to be strong storms in this general vicinity as we go from Thursday into Friday, and some of them might pack a tornado threat. Speaking of that false spring, let's take a look at temperatures tomorrow. My goodness, look at this. 4 p.m. tomorrow, we're up near 80 degrees in Dallas, 84 in San Antonio. How about you in Lincoln? 68, 64 in Sioux Falls. We're already starting to feel some of that warmth over here in Nashville. All the way up to Columbus, Ohio, it's 51, but that's pretty warm for this time of the year, but it gets warmer the next day. Let's go into Wednesday. This is the day before the day. The day before the day. High temperatures are going to be in the 60s in Chicago, 67 over here in Springfield, in the 60s in Columbus, and you can see that we're having warmth even all the way over there into Washington, D.C., down to Raleigh, Columbia, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Montgomery, New Orleans, Houston, Arkansas. We are warm, and this is all going to be fueling that storm system that's going to come through on Thursday. Now, why is the storm system coming through on Thursday? Well, there's your answer. You see that crashing cold front right there? A big blast of cold air is going to come down, swat the warmth out of the way, swat the moisture out of the way, and that is going to lead to severe thunderstorms. So here's a closer look at the dew points that we could be talking about on Thursday. Look at the divide. 59-degree dew point in Louisville at 10 p.m. on Thursday, and just a few miles to the west in St. Louis, 31 degrees. That's half the dew point. We're talking about half the dew point in St. Louis, and that sharp division line here is where storms are going to form. Whenever you've got cool, dry air pushing up against warm, moist air, you get lift, and that's going to cause thunderstorms. For this time of year, this is a pretty robust setup. It's not very often that you get a 55-degree dew point in Indianapolis in February, and for that reason, the latest HRRFS model has painted a pretty interesting looking scenario here on the potential future radar. This is showing an arc of supercells forming east of St. Louis and racing into the Indiana and Kentucky area, potentially even making it into Ohio. If this is actually what happens, our tornado threat's going to be higher because we're going to have individual supercells able to take advantage of the convective available potential energy that'll be there and all of the shear that's going to be there. I definitely think that a couple tornadoes are going to be on the board if we have a setup like this play out. So once again, we're tracking a surge of Gulf moisture with dew points hitting the 60s all the way up into Indiana, which is rare for February. And then we're going to have this strengthening low pressure system over here moving very quickly through the Great Lakes, creating very strong wind shear that is going to be able to spin these storms. So when these supercells get going, they're not just going to pop up and be linear. They are going to have lots of spin to them, and that is going to be a problem for the people who live in the path. If you do live in this corridor, Thursday is the day to be weather aware. Have a way to get warnings that will wake you up if necessary. The system is very dynamic. In February, severe weather can be particularly dangerous because people aren't expecting it in February like they are in May. Now, let's zoom out and talk about this system on a broader scale. Look at what happens before the storms. We're actually going to have somewhat of a blizzard up here in North Dakota and Minnesota tonight into tomorrow and into Wednesday. We're going to have very strong winds and heavy snow up here around Grand Forks, Fargo, over toward Duluth. We do have blizzard warnings going out for this. We talked about this yesterday. It's not going to be like a huge deep snow or anything, but it's going to be an impactful storm down into the upper peninsula of Michigan into southern parts of Ontario, and then it's going to be a hit or miss kind of thing for the Northeast. You can see that whenever that big surge of warm air meets the cold air, we get all this convection, and then it just kind of fizzles out. That's what we're left with in upstate New York and southern New England. I don't see this as a huge snowstorm for you guys, but this will be a pretty impactful storm once again for the Duluth area, the upper peninsula of Michigan, all the way up there into northern portions of Minnesota. And once again, we're not talking about crazy snowfall totals, but a couple people will get more than 8 inches of snow up there around Grand Forks. Duluth might end up with closer to a foot of snow with some lake enhancement going on here, but you can see down here in the Northeast, we're talking about a general 1 to 3 inches of snow. Nothing crazy at all. Nothing nearly as crazy as what's going on out here in the mountains of California, though. My goodness, we are going to get an absolute boatload of snow over here. And you know what's crazy about this West Coast system? We talked about this yesterday. There have been multiple severe thunderstorm warnings today for Los Angeles with tornado possible tags. And that threat is going to continue through the day today and even into the day tomorrow, maybe even up there around San Francisco and Sacramento. Look at these little individual cells that are coming in off the Pacific Ocean. They have the capability of rotating. So we have a tornado threat in California that we continue to talk about over the next couple of days. And the main threat's going to be rain. But we are watching that marginal risk of severe weather, including waterspouts today into tomorrow. The biggest travel nightmare here, though, is going to be the snow. We're talking about snow falling as low as 1,500 feet. So this is not just a snow event for those folks up there above 6,000 feet. Literally, as low as 1,500 feet, we're going to be talking about significant snow. This puts major travel arteries at risk, including the I-5 Grapevine. If you have travel plans through the passes, you need to check the conditions immediately. The Sierra Nevada is going to get hammered, and we're talking about feet of snow on top of what's already fallen. 8 feet of snow is a number that keeps going around out here, and it's going to be absolutely wild. This is a 1-2 punch with 2 very potent systems coming in back to back. This is the snow Super Bowl for the mountains of California. This is also going to be pretty impactful for Oregon and Washington, Utah, Arizona as well. Not quite as impactful as what we're talking about in California, but you guys are going to get in on some snow and maybe even some rain in the valleys as well. So pushing it even farther into the future, here's our next storm system that we're watching. You can see that continuous plunge of moisture into the West Coast. Here's our severe weather maker that we're watching as we go into Thursday and Friday that is going to go over to the East Coast and potentially add another little snow problem to the Boston area. Maybe some rain down in New York City and Philadelphia. Watch what happens after that. We get a decent amount of snow in Boston, and then another system comes together and we have a nor'easter. We have an actual nor'easter trying to pop up on the GFS. I said yesterday that it was weird that we didn't have any eye candy on the GFS in the long range. Well, here it is. February 22nd isn't even that far away, and we're talking about the potential for a nor'easter. Now, is this actually going to happen? Probably not. Do not screenshot this and put it on Facebook and say that I said it's going to snow. I'm letting you guys in on a potential here. We're having fun. I'll let you know when this is a real threat. Right now, it's just one model run showing a hammering from Washington, D.C. up to Boston, so don't get prepared for this. But if it ends up happening, I told you first. The long story, though, is even though we're talking about some cold blasts coming through here and there, the next 2 weeks look to be warmer than average for the vast majority of the United States, especially right there in the heartland. We're talking about Dallas, Oklahoma City, Topeka, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Colorado. You guys are all in this warmer than average area. And even though in Illinois and Indiana and Kentucky, for example, we're going to have these cold fronts come through that make it cold for a couple of days, the average temperature over the next 2 weeks is going to be above average, and this is going to continue to be the case. But I do think that we are still in a fall spring. So after this 2-week time period, as we go into the latter half of February, as we go into that last little bit of February, early March, we're going to have another transition to where we have some troughing in the east. And I really do think that we're going to be setting the stage for some major snowstorms during that time period. So if you're a snow lover, stay tuned. I think more snow could potentially be on the way. There's nothing concrete right now. I've been doing this long enough to where I can see the patterns clear as day. What goes up must come down. The rare nature of this February severe weather setup cannot be overstated. When we see dew points in the 50s and 60s reaching as far north as Indiana during winter, it creates atmospheric instability that can support significant severe weather development. The combination of unseasonably warm, moist air clashing with a strong cold front is textbook for severe weather, but it's happening at a time when most people aren't thinking about tornadoes. The danger here isn't just the severe weather itself, but the fact that it's occurring when people's guards are down. Emergency management officials in the Ohio Valley are already beginning preparations for what could be their first significant severe weather event of 2026. This false spring pattern we've been experiencing has lulled many into thinking winter is over, but Mother Nature has other plans. The temperature whiplash we're about to experience, from 80 degrees one day to severe thunderstorms the next, is exactly the kind of scenario that creates dangerous weather situations. For those in the Ohio Valley, now is the time to review your severe weather safety plans. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. Know where your safe place is in your home or workplace. And remember, if you're under a tornado warning, the safest place is in the lowest floor of your building, in an interior room away from windows. The California situation is equally remarkable for different reasons. Tornado-warned storms in Los Angeles in February are virtually unheard of, yet that's exactly what we're dealing with. The atmospheric river bringing moisture off the Pacific is creating conditions favorable for rotating thunderstorms, something California residents rarely have to consider during winter months. Well, that's all the weather talk I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, slap a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Stay weather aware, especially if you're in the Ohio Valley. Thursday could be a day to remember.